Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Bo, and this is a fiber cement Rainscreen solutions brought to you by Cladding Corp, Swisspearl, and Cladding, and hosted by Acelab. I work with Acelab. I'm going to give a quick 5 to 10 minute intro about Acelab and what we do. Also let you know how to find today's speakers on Acelab and connect with them directly through that. All right, so here we go. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm with Acelab. We're a free non-sponsored product research tool for architects and builders. Here's a quick snapshot of our team. So we were started by architects, for architects, really with the belief that we should, be saving time on tasks like finding our, specs and looking through product research and be able to really design better buildings by saving some time on these more admin tasks. So the vision was to create really one tab where you could specify, search, and collaborate on products all in one place. So taking a traditionally pretty disjointed process where information can be in many different places and turning it into a process where you're able to aggregate that all in one place and view information apples to apples. I'll jump over here to our live site real quick and just sign in. So once you sign in, you'll be brought back to your dashboard. This is your place on Acelab where you can quickly pick up to the products that you've saved, conversations you're having with product experts, your projects, as well as any searches that you've done. I'll skip our tour of the searches and the project management tools, but I'll give you my contact information. So if anybody has some questions about how to use Acelab for your product research, please feel free to reach out to me. And I'll just kind of quickly give you the overview tour. So up here, we've got all our searchable categories in this dark blue bar. So if you don't know what you're looking for, this is a great place to come and get a more guided research process. If you do know what you're looking for, you can just head to this search bar in the top, type in the name of the manufacturer that you want to view on Acelab, and head over to their page. You can connect with manufacturers and product reps directly through this page. So just nest this under a project. If you don't have a project, you can also add one right from here. Update any relevant information, and here you can select exactly the information that you're looking for so that that person will know the right person from their team to get you in touch with. Scrolling down, so we have all of the products, inspiration, case studies. So many of the things you'd be able to find on a regular manufacturer's website, all pulled over onto Acelab. So you're able to view manufacturers apples to apples. I'll jump over here to show you one of our product pages real quick. So scrolling down, you'll see that we have dimensions and whatever product data we have available. And then you can also request information directly from these product pages. So anytime you have a question or you need to connect with someone to learn more, Acelab's a fully collaborative tool where you're able to get that information that you need. All right, so with that, I will then hand it over to, we have David with us and Don. So they have been working in Rainscreen solutions for a long time. I'll let them give a little bit more information on their background, but they're here today to share with us the solutions brought to you from Cladding Corp, Swisspearl, and Cladding. All right, David and Don, feel free to take it away.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Let me go ahead and get some things set up. And should be all set to go now.
Oh, and I actually just remembered one housekeeping item I want to mention. If you have any questions during the event, please feel free to submit them to the Q&A. We will save some time to answer all of your questions at the end. And if your question doesn't get answered, we will follow up with you after the event to get you the information that you need. But yeah, feel free to submit those anytime. We'll try to get to some during the webinar if they seem relevant, but we'll definitely save some time at the end to go over those. And then I'll also have a quick poll. So if you want to get some more follow-up information, you can just answer yes to the poll at the end of the webinar. Okay, that's it for me now. David, feel free to go ahead.
No worries. So we appreciate the opportunity. Today we're going to go through Cladding Corp and Cladding, their sister companies. The Cladding Corp, we do products that are from the outside finished panels all the way to the backup wall through attachment systems. And then Cladding, we just do attachment systems for a variety of different Rainscreen products. As a company, we really have focused our careers in the Rainscreen category. I started out in terracotta, and then we started adding different products. Don's background was in curtain wall, then from there went over into launching high pressure laminates here in the United States. Just given kind of the length of time we've worked in the industry, as well as going to different trade shows, so forth, we have a fairly large background in different kinds of Rainscreen materials. We were the first in quite a few different categories. We have over 600 projects across the United States. Typical Rainscreen project that we look at is around 10,000 square feet, but we have jobs from 3,000, 2,000 square feet up to 100,000 square feet, just depending on what the project is requiring. With that said, what I wanted to do today is really focus in on the fiber cement panel. In the world of Rainscreen, fiber cement is kind of one of the most popular product offerings as far as panels. The person who actually created this is a gentleman by the name of Ludwig Hatschek. He was the creator of the actual machine that was used. And similar to any kind of franchise approach, he created a patent back in 1901, and then from there was able to move forward. This shows you a little bit of the background associated with. Started from there, then from Austria, went to other places in around the world, launching these different elements as far as the products. Swisspearl itself, we have launched a variety of different panel products, really starting out with our gray core and moving forward from there. The products themselves have been used by a variety of architects from around the world. Really, it kind of came a focal point for Swisspearl. Switzerland, known for high quality products, they were the ones that really started this whole process of fiber cement. So they brought it to leading architects, and from there they were able to, in essence, create the category of fiber cement panels. Ethernet is a name that's commonly associated with it, and that's what the gentleman Hatschek created. So these panels themselves have a history of kind of adapting to demands or requests that the architects have. And so with that, we started off with just a straightforward gray core panel. And then from there, they started adding different coatings. And so the gray core was commonly used both in a corrugated and flat panel approach, but then they did shingles, so forth. Then from there, they started doing different coatings, and they created a whole category of different products. The next thing that came back were architects requesting through-bodied colors. And so with that, they have 11 different through-bodied colors so that the core resembles the color. We always have one that is, in essence, a semi-translucent coating on top. And then from there, we have the ability to move it in different directions by adding different pigments of paint. The concept of Swisspearl, when they went to, instead of being called Ethernet Switzerland, they went into an international market approach. And by doing that, their real focus at that point was to create something that would be easy to remember. So in Switzerland, obviously, it's a country that's known for high quality products. And so they started with that as their lead name. And then the Pearl concept was really, in essence, to talk about beauty, something that was a natural process, but then it went from there to a laminate. And so with that, I'm going to touch base now on just how fiber cement is made. The first layer of this process is starting off with the raw materials. The raw materials themselves are different types of Portland cement, fibers, pulp, water, so forth, and they're all added together. They've been doing this, as I said, since 1901, and so this process has been a focal point. When they bring all these different materials together, they put them into a mixture. What you're seeing there is a PVA fiber. That is the fiber that we use as our bonding agent for our air-cured products. And I'll touch base on the difference between air-cured and autoclaved panels. But this air-cured approach allows us, in essence, to have panels that we mix up the batter, so to speak, of fiber cement. And then from there, it goes into our machine. The key thing to note here on the machine is that here is the actual roller that was created back in 1901. And that was what was patented. And pretty much almost every factory around the world will use this exact machine. And then from there, it goes down a conveyor belt where then it is cut. After that process, the next thing that happens is a pressing and drying. And in this case, we put steel sheets in between our panels of fiber cement, and we put it into a press where it is pressurized. And then from there, in this product, which is an air-cured approach, we go through the process of a 28-day curing. Now, the nice thing about Portland cement and cement products is that there is a curing process that takes time. And so it allows us the opportunity for us to create different elements, but the curing process itself gets stronger and stronger. And so the panels are able to then be used in a variety of different applications. I'm going to touch base a little bit more on the coating, because in essence, that's what Swisspearl became world renowned for. And that is the ability to put different kinds of finishes. I have a couple slides that'll show that process, but the glazing or the different opaque colors that we put on the actual coating of the panel has really been a focal point. But then also the innovation of different cutting and fabrication. And so those are all the elements that we have focused on as an entity there at the factory in Switzerland. But from there, a quick overview again, our recipe, pretty straightforward. It's Portland cement, water, air, pulp, and PVA fibers. And I'll just go through a couple slides real quick of just looking at these different materials. And a very natural product, as you can see. In the United States, we focus on Swisspearl, and 100% of our panels were air cured. But just so you understand kind of where we fit in the world of fiber cement, you have medium density and high density. The products that we're referring to as Swisspearl are high density. There's another company called Sembrit and Equitone. Those are also high density products. Nichiha, James Hardy would be what we would call medium density. The density ultimately is going to start talking a little bit more about water absorption, different elements, and all of these products in this category, for the most part, are manufactured with the concept of really bulk sales. And so just recently, Sembrit was actually purchased by Swisspearl. So now Swisspearl has both their air-cured series as well as a autoclaved series. And just to get into the actual panels, what they look like, we have Largo panels, which are large sheets. These are in thicknesses of 8 millimeter or 12 millimeter thickness. We have different sizes. We usually use a standard 49 and fabricate from there. And then we have an 8-foot and a 10-foot long panel. We can take that same panel and turn it into a slat orientation. And in this case, we have a 6-inch, a 12, a 16, and a 24-inch. Gives a lot of diversity as far as installs. We can do running bonds with this. We can do vertical applications, horizontal. Another whole category that is available in the United States now is our clip system, which is a large format shingle. We can integrate different sizes. We have 3 different sizes. Again, this is going to be more of a lap siding product, but this product itself is gaining a lot of attention, especially for some changes or interest in a large format process. With these products, the thing you have to remember from a high density material is that in essence, you're buying a sheet good and then you fabricate it to any size, dimensions, so forth. This is a project actually in Denver. So they created this at the Botanical Garden. From perforation, another thing that we can do, we usually have a surface penetration of 18% limit, but we can do all kinds of different patterns within it. Can be used for lighting concepts, windshields, so forth. So it just gives a lot of different elements in that regard. And we work then with the architect and the design community to dial that in. We can also engrave on our panels. And so if there's corporate logos or different elements of engraving that are desired, a graphic, so forth, we have the capability of engraving. One thing that makes Swisspearl a little bit different than others is also they really are trying to think about what the architect is looking for. So we can coat, for instance, on both sides of our panels. So we're already thinking through, hey, you might want to use this in a sunscreen application. How do we accommodate that? And so we have that capability. Sunshades are another whole category for us. So we do different kinds of shading elements, both vertical and horizontal. The last thing I wanted to touch base on was just the ranges of colors. So in this case, we have our natural range, which starts off with their core product line, which is called Corp. Corp has the 11 different through-bodied colors. And then from there, we'll take that core color. And here's an example of Sahara. We'll make the standard Sahara, but then we might darken it and we might lighten it, so forth. And so just depending on what the requirement is, we have the capability of mixing and matching these. All of our color series, we try to coordinate so that they can be linked together. This product is called Reflex. It is actually an iridescent or a metallic oriented panel. One of the nice things is it gives you the opportunity of like an ACM or a metal panel, but without any concerns as far as fire code issues, so forth, as all these products in the Swisspearl family have no issues associated with fire. Another product line is Vintago. Vintago ultimately is taking, from the Swiss's perspective, a perfectly beautiful panel and putting a sandblaster on it. But that was a demand and a request, and so they're accommodating the market, of course. And so with that, they sand the face of the panel, and then they reseal it so that it keeps all 6 sides, which is a standard of the Swisspearl natural series, will be sealed in that regard. They also then have another product called Vintago Reflex, which is a combination. It's just using the reflex pigment and color on the face of Vintago. Again, a lot of these are designed so they can mix and match with the products. One series, which is a classic architectural gift, is an architect once held the panel and turned it upside down and said, I like this side instead. So that became a Vera. And so it's exactly the same process of Corp, but instead we take the bottom of the panel and we flip it. In the settling or curing process, it gives more of a modeled type of look. And so that's one of the elements that is done here with the Vera. Again, you can see how those same color series could easily match with something else. Noblesse was the real beginning of Swisspearl when they started adding different translucent coloring on top of gray core. And so with that, in essence, there's a bleed of the fiber cement that actually bleeds through the coloring. And so it's a real pretty natural look and very soft tones, but you can actually see the actual pigments of and fibers through it. And so it creates a very warm aesthetic. The other series is Xenor. This is an opaque through-bodied color. Again, great color range, but it gives the opportunity for a more solid color range. We have a Terra series, which is in essence a tonal quality of different terracotta-oriented looks. And then one of the ones that they started with early on was Planea, which is taking the gray core panel and putting an opaque color. One thing that's great about the Swisspearl product line, it's pretty much limitless in reference to whatever colors you're interested in. So if you have corporate imaging, so forth, that are specific colors, you can pretty much just give us what color code you need, and we can make that happen for you on a gray core or also on our through-bodied colors. The last one that I'll touch in the natural series is our Gravule. This is in essence a 6-color palette where we start with our 12 mil, a little bit thicker, and then we actually have it where we use a router in order to create lineal aspects to it. And so it's a line series. Then through the purchase of Sembrit, now that that is fully owned by Swisspearl, the next thing we have is our Authentic line. This product is very much designed. We have 13 colors, and it's designed to really be a commodity. So our price points are more economical, but we don't do a lot of customization, if any. So it's a very much product that's designed to, what you get is a focal point of these colors. But as the word patina alludes to, it's also a natural product that is intended to change over time and have a color range. And so that's something that's a little bit different for us in that regard, so that the color itself will have a fading or just a natural change over time. And we also have then the Patina Rough series. So we take 5 of our more common sold colors, and then we also use a sandblaster in order to change the actual texture of the finish. And then another product line that we have in Patina is our inline. It's similar to our Gravial, but it's using the Patina series. So where Gravial will have a consistency in its color, this one actually will fade or change on the building itself. The nice thing about fiber cement is that it's a very easy product to work with. We can do concealed, we can do face fastened. Don will touch base on that here in a second. But you can really create some just beautiful images, buildings, as far as design wise. The color spectrum is definitely something that gives you the ability to use mixing, matching, so forth, vertical, horizontal runs. Different projects, here are integrated with window sections. We have the capability of going back into areas where the window wants to be wrapped. All of those elements are things that can easily be achieved. And then another aspect is that you can do very soft variations of the color, and that gives you the ability to kind of achieve it from there. Different elements as far as design wise. I'm going to stop now, and I'm going to turn it over to Don and let him talk about our attachment approaches and what we do as far as specifically as it applies to the eco cladding.
Great, thank you, Dave. As a group, eco cladding, we focus on attachment systems, primarily for drained and back-ventilated Rainscreen systems, but also we do get connected with pressure equalized and other groups as well. But today I'm going to talk about these different systems, and from a design perspective or an engineering perspective, things that you should be asking in your design side of it on these attachment systems. And when we're looking at the wall, we take an approach of the holistic side of the wall and what performance factors we need to be looking at. And so one of the main and one of the a real driving force in the US right now is the thermal performance of how these walls are performing. What is the effective value that you're getting out of your wall? Because we are breaching a variety of things, and one thing in particular is the insulation and what happens when we breach that and how it performs. So making sure that we're looking at the wall and given the effective performance value and modeling that wall. And so that's a standard approach for us, is to do thermal modeling for all of the projects that we're looking at. And in doing that, we're also, as we're penetrating the insulation layer, we're also having to go through the air and moisture barrier on that side of it. So minimizing what happens there and what that looks like at that penetration point that we have. And then also giving an adjustment of the system. So I'll show in a later slide that each of our systems has an internal adjustability, so it minimizes or eliminates the need for shimming these systems. So that helps for water penetration issues that you may have, and also helps for just the installer to be able to get this on the wall and work with a nice flat wall. All of our systems, as Dave mentioned, even with the skin side with the Swisspearl brand, is a non-combustible 136 tested product, and the same would be true for all of our attachment systems, where everything we do is in the non-combustible side of it, so there's no triggers for 285. But even if we're working with a cladding product that would need that, we do a variety of different tests connected with that as well. And just longevity. We're looking at buildings that are 20, 50, 100-year buildings that need to be there, that looking for zero maintenance in these types of buildings that are being put up. and just the pure engineering of the system and making sure we have the fixing and sliding points, and that we're looking at it, how that integrates with the wall and the backup wall, and how that integrates with the panel product. A lot of panel issues that happen out in the field are not necessarily a bad panel. It's typically something either on the installation side, or it could be something on just the system not being designed properly. So that makes it very important to tie together an engineered system and an engineered subframing through the engineering and shop drawing process of that. The other piece that we look at from the ECO side is stands for engineered, compliant, and optimized. And for us, that's, it's more than the tagline. Everything we do is a fully, fabricated engineered solution. We're offering design assist, whether it's a unique application, a unique system depth that would be there. So to help the architect, to help the specifier or the envelope consultant on their building, and also be able to throw out different ideas of, okay, what if we looked at exposed? Do we have the budget for that? Okay, this is what this would look like. Or if we went with concealed, what would that look like? Or just helping them with optimizing the layout on that side of it. And as a group, to also help just for fulfillment, we stock all of these components here in the US. All of our hats, Z's, L's, T's, all these different things that we have about 40 different combination of systems that are here in stock in the US in one format or the other. The building block for these systems that we have are really either, and just the examples, go back one day, the building block of these are either just the vertical bracket components or the horizontal bracket components that we have. And if you look at kind of the solid circles, these are the vertical systems. We call these VCI, or vertical continuous insulation systems, or the other options in the dotted ones would be the HCI. And then we also have edge-to-edge systems, and I'll hit on each of those as well. But this is how we start. These components are either, the brackets are either aluminum or they could be stainless steel. So the aluminum we call our alpha systems, and the stainless are sigma systems. But a lot of similarities in each of these is it allows you to get through the insulation, to hold off either really lightweight products like composites or things that are light, or like things Dave mentioned in the fiber cement side, where it would be a 2 or 3 or 4 pound system. And it could just be a couple inches of exterior insulation, or it could be a system where you're trying to accommodate 12 or 13 inches of exterior insulation, depending on what you're trying to get to. And these are kind of the variety, and below it's kind of the adjustment range of what we have with the system. So this allows the installer to get it on the wall, allows them to plumb the system out and mechanically anchor it together. And that's kind of the building platform of what the next system would be beyond that. This would be if we're going to the wall vertically first. And if you needed to go horizontally to the wall first, we would go to our HCI systems, which are the horizontal continuous insulation systems, either also in aluminum or stainless, with a lot of the same similarities. They each have these internal adjustment ranges and a variety to accommodate for fixing and sliding points within these systems as well. The other system that we have that is, we see a lot in parking garages or retrofits or other areas, would be our edge-to-edge system. So we're basically taking something similar to a curtain wall anchor system going back to the wall, and it might be attaching to a slab edge, it might be attaching to some type of steel coming off the wall. And this allows us to actually use tube systems, whereas the other systems we had mentioned are typically going to the wall at every stud or every other stud, and some vertical spacing of, let's say, 2 feet or 3 feet. But a system like this, you would go anchor back to the wall only at the slab edges, and whether the slab edge was 8 foot, 10 foot, 15 feet, and then we'd integrate a tube system inside of that to create that layer. And then either you could attach directly to that, or it would be something that you would actually attach a secondary system outboard of that as well. So it would accommodate either one of those things. So in looking at your Rainscreen wall, and the things that we provide as a group would be, kind of a start to finish. If you're looking to build a Rainscreen, and that we do the wind load analysis, we're doing thermal analysis for that building or that wall that we have. We've done a ton of thermal modeling, and it might be something, it's a standard approach and a standard spacing, or if it's something unique or an existing building, or you're trying to figure out which depth of insulation I need to use to make sure we're meeting a minimum code or a stretch code. The other item to mention is we also have passive house certification for our stainless systems here in the US. So if you're looking at a building and you're trying to achieve passive house design, we also have that across a variety of different skins as well, and with the fiber cement. We are helping with span analysis, panel layout, cost analysis, and just making sure, across the US, what is needed in LA is different than what it needed in New York City. That's different than what's needed in Florida. So making sure we're, if you need a Dade County wall, or if you need a New York City compliance, or if you need a OSHPD compliance, making sure that all of these are being looked at and accommodated for. And project management from start to finish. We have a certified installer program that we can put groups through on that side of it. So, and then I think back to you, Dave.
Great. I think as far as different elements, we do have installer training capabilities, as Don alluded to. The testing code requirements is another area that we have put together as far as capability of doing in-house testing as well. So those are different elements, as well as we work with different testing labs. That's pretty much an overview. Is what we've tried to do obviously today is give you kind of a background in reference to fiber cement panels. We also work in terracotta and ceramic. I would consider kind of the classic scenario of Rainscreen panels that are out there is ultra high performance or fiber concrete panels. Main difference between fiber cement and fiber concrete, they'll both be air cured, but you just have more aggregate. And depending on which company you work with, some are extruded, some are poured products, where ours are definitely using the hat check approach in reference to its production. As we had alluded to earlier, Don launched high pressure laminates here in the United States. They're both some with wood grain, some that are just without it. So the HPL product lines. Then you also have kind of a series of terracotta, ceramic. Those are kind of the main ones. But in addition to that, we obviously see Rainscreen applications in the bulk of the United States with metal panels, ACM, so forth. There's a bunch of new products that are coming to the market, wood, stone. So the eco cladding product itself, that's what we have tended to focus on as far as giving our ability to just do attachment systems depending on what is needed. So with that, that's pretty much an overview of the fiber cement with Swisspearl. Again, just recently, we've added the Sembrit product line into our company. And then in addition to that, we have all the different subframing systems, both components to focus just on the insulation section, often referred to as the CI layer, but then we also do full systems and can engineer depending on whatever required Rainscreen product is out there.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. That was super informative. It looks like we've got quite a few questions coming in. So if it's okay with you, I'll just start reading them off and you all can answer and we can see how many we can get to. All right. So first, let's see. Any suggestions on how to do residential moisture rot remediation with an environmental buffer gap?
I'll probably take it because that's probably a system side. Most everything we do is commercial on that side, and there's really, and our space is mostly for that piece of it. So for our side of it is there typically is always some type of barrier that's there, the insulation, and then for us it's either an aluminum or stainless steel system, and then the skin product that's going over that side of it. So I think that typically residential is not an area that we typically get involved in.
Okay, and then was transit, which was cement asbestos, the same as the original Swisspearl. Bernard Maybeck used it in 1910 in the Christian Science Church in Oakland. Do you know that?
So apologies. Can you say the question one more time?
Yeah, so I think they're asking, was transit, which was cement asbestos, the same as the original Swisspearl?
Yeah, so if I don't know that specific project or what the comment is, but as far as the history of asbestos, so Swisspearl was actually the company that kind of gave to the world how to get rid of asbestos. And so one of the cool things about Switzerland, they are very innovative, but they also love different categories, including clothing. And so they had a lot of folks in the community where the plant was that was actually in the clothing industry, like Gore-Tex and all these different kinds of materials. So just intuitively, they, reached out to their folks and they said, well, why don't we start looking at fibers that could give us the strengthening we need, but without asbestos. So they were the first to launch it. And then they in turn gave it to the rest of the fiber cement community in order to get away from asbestos. Asbestos, obviously natural product, but given its concerns as far as cancer, lung cancer, so forth, they shifted to that. And we've been probably asbestos free for 50 years in that regard.
Okay, cool. That's interesting to know. All right. What is the line between medium and high density? Is there a PCF amount where you would distinguish between the two?
Yeah, so ASTM has testing that in essence creates the categories of medium and high density. We're in the high density category. Ultimately, what you're looking at is a few different test results. And so in the actual ASTM test for fiber cement, it'll tell you grade and division of what the product is. So it gets into specific test requirements of what is one versus the other. Typically, it's going to be talking more about pulp. How much wood content is usually kind of a focal point. The products that are in the low density tend to have less Portland cement, so forth.
Okay, great. Before I move on to the next one, I just wanted to mention real quick, if anybody feels compelled to ask a question out loud, feel free to raise your hand. I know folks can be a little bit nervous to do that, but sometimes it's helpful if you've got, kind of a project specific question or something that feels difficult to type. So I'll keep my eyes peeled for any hands raised. Okay, so from Jody, is the pulp a virgin material or is there recycled content?
I'm not 100% sure. We do most of our recycled content. There is some for the panel itself. We actually do more energy recycling. So the factory is designed to grab all the energy, even the heat that's created through the curing process is used to heat our factory. They're very much focused on different energy aspects. As far as the material content, because of the kind of the simplicity of it, a lot of it is non-recycled material, but they do some recycling, but it's, I think, a fairly small percentage.
Great. Do you provide a thermally broken attachment system that will be 2020 Energy Conservation Code compliant?
I'll let Don take that, but we'd love to do that.
Yes, we will. So we do have, and as I mentioned, anything that's going to break the insulation should be modeled based on the ASHRAE code. So whether it's whatever the material type is, whether it might be a fiberglass, a stainless, an aluminum, you can pick any gamut of material that you have outside of a surface opening or a fastener should be modeled. So yes, we have various attachment systems that we would look at, both in aluminum and or stainless steel, that would actually do that and model that based on those standards and can provide that, whether insulation in the cavity, out of the cavity. So we do a combination of modeling to show that compliance. And we do it through the frequency of the attachment. We have also isolator pads that we can put behind it. They don't provide a huge effect, but we will model it with both situations showing. So it is very clear to what that effective value of that wall penetration is.
Okay. Are there height maximums for this system? Let's say a 25 or 35 story building in New York.
There are no height factors. So when we do the wind load analysis, and I'll speak to the system side and I'll speak a little bit to the panel side as well. On the system side, there are no height restrictions for that. There are some very good engineering guidelines that you should go with for proper design of drain and backvent related systems, because you're relying on airflow and you're also relying on flow of water that maybe get behind these systems that are inside of there. So we want to do that. We want to make sure we're looking at corner conditions and how we're transferring those wind loads from one quarter to the other. But we're looking at that, we're designing that, and the spacing of these brackets and the thickness and the fasteners that are used are designed project specific. It's not a generic one size fits all. There are some rules of thumb, but in general, we will look at that for each building, and it's backup wall, the wind load for that job, and how it's being modeled and put together. And the same would hold true for the panel as well. What you do for a 1 or 2 story building and the ventilation you may need to have behind there is very different. And as we get up higher and higher on the different, higher buildings, the anchor spacing of that panel will also probably tighten up some as well. But it is very much project specific. And remember, these are products that have NOA, Dade County approval, Florida product approval. They have seismic approval, so it'll reach the gamut of how it will be used. And these products have been used around the world in every environmental condition.
I'm going to pause once more and just let everyone know I just launched the poll. So if you have follow-up questions or you'd like some more information, price quotes, lead times from today's speakers, just feel free to fill out this poll and we will follow up with you after the event to get you that information. All right, so from Jim, what are the thickness of these panels and does it change with panel size?
Yeah, so we have 2 thicknesses. It's actually created in the fiber cement through the rotation of that barrel. So we have a standard thickness of 8 millimeters and another of 12 millimeters. So that's our standard 2 thicknesses. We can do panels that are down to 4 millimeter, 6 millimeter, but those tend to be our shingle products, smaller format products. But the typical Swisspearl panel sold in the United States is an 8 millimeter. It can be used for both a face fastened or a concealed approach. We don't need to have a thicker panel. We have capability of using the 8 millimeter. So if we were to take, 100 jobs, 90+% of those jobs would be using our 8 millimeter thick panel.
And then what about manufacturing locations and supply chain logistics? Could you provide a little info on that?
Great. So Swisspearl has multiple factories in Europe. The main factory is obviously in Switzerland, but in addition to that, they are in Austria and Hungary. And then they have other locations in Finland. So they have a total, I think, of 7 different factories. Depending on the panel is where it will be manufactured. All of our fabrication is domestically done here in the United States. So we get the panels. Key thing for that is to help out with lead time. So what we're trying to make sure is that we do not delay a project by waiting for shops to be done or things along those lines. We'll get the panels to our fabricator and simultaneously we'll work to dial everything in. So we have cut sheets, so forth, and then we can get materials to the job site as fast as possible. As it pertains to the aluminum and stainless steel, those are domestic products that we have here in the States.
Okay, let's see. While we're here, what about support in Canada?
We love Canadians. They're great. They're actually the leaders of Rainscreen, so we got to like them. They're the ones that innovated North America. So
that would be yes. All right. Are there guidelines for retrofitting an existing brick veneer building? Several clients are frustrated with New York City's local laws and brick wall inspections, which are a constant headache and major financial drain on residential condos and co-ops.
Yeah, we do. As a group, we do a lot with the New York City schools. We do a lot of retrofits in New York for this reason, for advanced energy adding insulation. And it is a huge challenge on that level. I think we probably should connect a little more on that. But yes, we do have a guideline for what to do, what field testing needs to be done, and then how we can support that. So a decision has to be made. Can we use what's behind it? Or what do we have to pull off? And then we can provide what needs to be next from there and what skin would go outboard of that. But there's a fair amount of that. And like I mentioned, most of the SCA schoolwork is done, and we're doing most of that through the attachment, and also the Swisspearl side of it is a combination that we've been doing for the last few years. And all of those are requiring a fair amount of insulation added to them as well. But happy to talk more about that and provide some other guidelines and white papers that we have on that as well.
Okay, cool, great.
And we also can do it without taking the brick off. And so you can reskin a building doing potentially a slab to slab approach or different attachments where we figure out exactly what the pull-out strengths are, so forth, and go directly back in and put new skins on buildings.
Cool. Can your product be used on a footing wall with ground contact adhered to the perimeter insulation?
Typically, it would be a different product that would be used for that. It wouldn't be the traditional Swiss product that would go with that, because most of the fiber cements need a balanced panel based on how they're used. There are some alternate products that can be used for that. And so we can get some information out on that. I'm assuming that the question is about the panel side of it.
Yeah, I think so. But if not, Tobias, feel free to clear that up. All right. What does a typical wall detail look like, and what do typical window and door penetrations look like?
Yeah, I mean, typically, like we have all standard sets of details for all of our different systems. This is a system that does have drainage and back ventilation, so there's typically a ventilation inlet at the top and some outlet at the bottom, and some type of. So we're allowing that flow to happen back there. As a rule of thumb, we would always like to see these systems flashed and any water pushed out of the system every time we can. Sometimes that's not does not meet the design intent or the what the visual of the building needs to look like. So we have a lot of different ways we can do it, but we're always trying to educate on, okay, the best thing to do for water performance is this. Maybe you want it to look a little different, so you can use this detail, but make sure the barrier manufacturers are looking at it and are on board with that as well. So we'll give you the guidance of what we think is the best design and what will perform the best, but also there's other things that we may change from an aesthetic perspective as well.
This is an interesting one. What is the expected lifespan of Swisspearl versus Hardie, and what maintenance is required?
I don't like to speak of Hardie only because I don't really know. Hardie also uses a similar production process, but I can obviously Swisspearl's been around for 100 plus years. We tend to use, like, if you want to use a chocolate illustration, we tend to use the best ingredients. That's just been the Swiss approach to how they go to market. And so with that, Hardie is definitely designed for a mass production. And so with that, you tend to have different ingredients, so to speak. We don't design our materials to pass tests. We design materials to have high quality buildings that last, for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. Like we don't want maintenance. We want our products to be perfect always. And so we have a very high threshold and standard in that regard from a production aspect, but then also, just even making sure the installers know what they're doing, all that element. We do not repaint our panels. Our panels are UV stable, excluding our patina series, which is intended to have the capability of fade and change. But besides that, I mean, I believe Hardie, depending on which product line you have, you could have panels that need to be painted at site or could come coated, but they would last only 10, 15 years. So it just depends. We don't tend to bump into them as a product category as much. So I don't really, day in and day out, talk a lot about Hardie. We tend to be a different product line than the application for Hardie.
Makes sense. Okay, so looks like that was it. So if anyone has any other questions, feel free to send them in now. We've got, looks like a few more minutes left. I have two comments that I wanted to bring up while we just wait and see if there's anyone else who has anything to ask. But I loved that you showed that Denver project in the Botanic Gardens, and I was actually there last weekend. I'm based in Denver for those who don't know or didn't catch that. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that I was like kind of standing outside the building, and my partner was like, why are you just staring at this? And I was like, I know this project. I think I've seen this really recently. So yeah, I'm sure I had seen it when I was going through some of your slides at some point. But yeah, I just thought it was cool. It's always fun to like see something in the wild.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful project and very cool design as far as taking a product. And I mean, that's one of the things I think both Don and I enjoy, is to bring materials to architects and let them envision what they want to do and let it come to life. And so that's exciting for us.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely a project where you can see that there was really some creative uses of the product. And then one other thing I wanted to kind of bring up, I just have had randomly a few architects kind of bring this up to me in separate conversations. I know you had briefly mentioned the patina line moving from Sembrit over to Swisspearl. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of like bring that back up again, let folks know once more that if you're used to like working with that line under Sembrit, that it's under Swisspearl now. But yeah, that's something that I had come up before this webinar was actually planned. Somebody who was used to working with those panels and hadn't realized that the switch had been made.
Yep. No, we're very excited about it. It's a great addition as far as a company. It adds just a different product series altogether, but also high quality material.
Definitely. All right. Looks like we've got two more questions from our audience. So one of the projects shown the Highline Hotel in New York. Was that one of the ones that you showed?
Standard Hotel. Yep.
The
Standard Hotel. That's an eco project. It's ultra high performance concrete out of Germany. As one of the first projects, Polshek at the time was the group that was the designer who did it. But we also did a project that I showed, Vassar, and that's also a project by their firm.
Okay, cool. Standard Hotel. I have stayed there too. Been in quite a few of your projects. All right, so I'm hearing pretty limited application for single family or small family duplex, etc. Is that correct?
So if you were to be in Switzerland, 90% of what they sell are for homes. When they go to the international marketplace, they do tend to use the large format, but we have a whole range of what I would refer to as residential product line. From a cost perspective and things like that, we tend to find that the residents we work on tend to be very modern, stylized buildings. Sometimes it's people who actually have their own gallery of art and they're trying to figure out how to lay it out in their own home kind of thing. So these are very highly stylized homes. But we're doing more and more in that category. Our slat product has that capability, and then also the Kleinar. But when it comes to mixed use as well as apartments, condominiums, we're definitely very much involved in that. But single family homes, we really haven't had as much effort in doing residential.
Okay, great. All right, so it's like that was, again, our last one. I'll do one last call for additional questions. And while we're here, I'm going to throw a few links into the chat that folks might find helpful. So this first one is just a link to connect with Cladding on Acelab. So as a reminder, you can also, throw in Swisspearl and Sembrid and look at their pages as well. And then I would also like to send a link to one of our other webinars this week. So if you would like to come to another one on Thursday, we've got one on high performance windows. And the last thing I will send you all is my email, so that if there are any other Acelab questions, you can just feel free to shoot me an email directly. We can schedule a demo, talk through your project requirements, whatever is helpful for you. All right, Richard says, thank you. Thank you, Richard. Oliver says, do you have a Corten steel looking panel?
So in that category, we tend to use our ceramic series. So we do have that aesthetic through ceramic. The Swisspearl line itself, there's some colors, but I wouldn't say that we're very solid in Swisspearl really coming up with that aesthetic. We do have a metallic series, but just even the color range, a little bit different, but we could definitely point you in the direction. There are quite a few other manufacturers that do large format Corten steel type aesthetics.
Cool. Yeah, also feel free to, just a reminder, the poll is up. If you asked a question such as that, samples might be helpful. Feel free to request some samples. We'll work on getting you those items. And looks like we've got a few thank yous. I'll give it 1 or 2 more moments for any other last minute questions, but if not, then we can let folks out a few minutes early. Thank you, David and Don, again. This was really great and super helpful and informative. Do you guys have any last questions or comments for our guests today?
We're good, I think. I appreciate the opportunity. Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Let us know if we can help you with any of your designs for projects. And yes, thank you for your time today.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to end the webinar in a moment, and I hope everybody has a beautiful rest of their Tuesday.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.